Welcome to this short presentation of the Italian framework for cover bonds. My name is Stefano Patruno. I am head of European regulatory policies at Intesa Sanpaolo and current deputy chairman of the European Cover Bond Council. So the cover bonds in Italy are called Obbligazioni Bancarie Garantite, or OBGs, and they were introduced back in 2007, and the legislation was based on the previous securitization framework to ensure the asset segregation. This means that assets, the cover pool, is transferred by way of a sale, a true sale, to a special purpose entity, and this ensures the asset segregation. So the dual recourse, which is the characteristics of cover bonds, is ensured first by the issuer, which is a bank, so supervised entity, and the cover pool is segregated into the special purpose entity, which is also a supervised entity. In Italy, there are currently 13 cover bond issuers, and this number also considers, as you can appreciate, the mergers and the consolidation of the Italian banking sector. The cover bond directive has been implemented in Italy at the end of last year, and so was published on the official Gazette in December 2021. And Bank of Italy is expected to publish soon the secondary legislation. There are not many differences with the previous framework, but of course there are a few. And I would mention here the introduction of the liquidity buffers, which is of course foreseen by the Cover Bond Directive in Article 16. The types of assets are mortgages, residential and commercial mortgages, and public assets. And the LTV limits are consistent and aligned with the European legislation, so 80%, 60% and 70% for commercial. The kind of property valuation is also aligned with European legislation and cannot exceed market value. So the minimum OC level has been introduced by the Cover Bond Directive. So currently the level is set at 5%. At this stage, we do not know if national authorities will allow to lower this percentage to 2% or not. In the previous framework, there was no fixed percentage, but there was the obligation to fulfill 3 tests, and these 3 tests made the framework particularly sound and appreciated by investors. First test, nominal value test, so the amount of collateral should exceed in nominal terms the amount of outstanding OBGs. Second test, net present value test. So the present value of the collateral should exceed the present value of the OBGs. Third test, interest coverage test. This means that at all times, interests on the portfolio, on the cover pool, should exceed all interest to be paid on cover bonds and costs maturing on the cover bond program. And these 3 tests are confirmed in the new Italian framework. Well, the tests that I just described are made to ensure a buffer to cover market risk, but not only market risk, also credit risk. This means that every loan which turns non-performing during the life of the program will be excluded from the tests. And so, everything else being equal, all the cover pool at all times must be performing. Market practice in Italy since the introduction of the OBGs has been to issue soft bullet cover bonds, and in the last years also conditional pass-through cover bonds. And these features allows in case of difficulties of the issuing bank, allows a certain period, which is 12 months, to be able to dispose of the portfolio in order to reimburse the bonds at their scheduled maturities. Also, with the introduction of the Covered Bond Directive, liquidity risk is also addressed by the introduction of the liquidity buffer, which is under Article 16 of the Covered Bond Directive. Of course, liquidity buffers were already present in the covered bond programs, also under the former framework, but they were not harmonized, so they were tailor-made for each program. And so they also depended on the specific features of the program and according to the criteria of the rating agencies that were involved. Since the introduction of the covered bond framework, there has been a cover pool monitor called Asset Monitor. And this Asset Monitor must be an audit firm independent from the issuer. This means that the audit firm which has the duty of auditing the financial statements of the issuer cannot be chosen to be an asset monitor of the covered bond program. So there must be two audit firms for a bank. And this is particularly appreciated because it introduces independence and more protection for investors. OBG comply with the provisions of Article 129 of CRR. In terms of eligible assets, some assets that remain eligible for the CRR, such as ship loans, are not allowed in the Italian framework. But apart from that, and complying with all the criteria of Article 129, OBGs are eligible to be designated as covered bond premium. For more details on the Italian framework, please have a look at the ECBC Factbook 2022. And thanks a lot to all contributors, national contributors to the Factbook. Thanks a lot to the ECBC staff for such a marvelous work. And thanks particularly for your kind attention. Goodbye.